I'm Bailey Parnell, and I'm the founder and CEO of Skills Camp. Skills Camp is a soft skills training company, so we work with companies and higher ed institutions to build soft skill competencies in their staff and students. And very often that's skills like personal branding or public speaking or productivity, and then other ones like emotional intelligence or building inclusive workplaces. Usually when we work with a client, we have them choose the skill they want to develop first, and then we choose the delivery method. And so sometimes that might be, they want to work on personal branding, but they're doing it in a conference, or they want it in a webinar, or very often it's a in-person workshop. So when we work with higher ed, places like Ryerson or Queens or Laurier, it's very often in person, and usually it's a career center or housing or a student group hiring us for students. So they'll say, can you come in and do a 2-hour workshop on productivity for students? Or it might be the staff there hiring us to come teach their staff about how to tell stories better. 3 skills I think every entrepreneur needs are resilience, proper productivity, and empathy. Resilience, I think, is the golden skill. Often as an entrepreneur, you are put through ups and downs, and if you don't have the ability to bounce back, and not only to bounce back, but to learn and thrive after that, you won't last. The second one is productivity. But I think productivity is often just trying to find more time, but it's not. It's doing more in the time that you do have. So making that time you do have more effective and more efficient. And so sometimes we see, I think it's called duck syndrome, where entrepreneurs often go through what I think is called duck syndrome, where you look great on the surface, but underneath you're really paddling hard. And so often with entrepreneurs, I think they think, they're working so hard, we're working so hard because all I do is work, but maybe not necessarily on the right things, or maybe not necessarily with the right tools that could make this task turn into this much of your day. So learning the right productivity hacks would be really helpful for any entrepreneur. And then the third soft skill that I think every entrepreneur should have, and is probably in a deficit in the current landscape, is empathy. That's probably because of the gender makeup of the current landscape. But I think empathy, let's say, starting with your clients or your customers. That's sort of what we might call like a user-centered design or user-centered product, where we're actually thinking about what are the needs of my client. That's empathy. That's practiced empathy. Or what are the needs of my staff? What would make it a really great workplace for them to come to? Not what do I think would make a really great workplace, and putting that, not even what do I think you need, it's what do you need? And then saying, okay, I'm really trying to understand that, and seeing how it then works with you. And then probably empathy for yourself along the way, because you always feel like you're failing. When I was going through school, I did not want to be an entrepreneur. In fact, I actively resisted the title. But then when I had paired, my talents with what was going well, what I liked doing, and it was actually having an impact, then I saw the need, and it felt more natural. I didn't feel like I was saying, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. It was just, this needs to be done, and I guess I have to be an entrepreneur to do it. And so if I were talking to students now, I would say, don't chase the title of being an entrepreneur. That's like chasing the title. To me, that's like chasing the title of being a student. It's just a phase. It's just the thing that helps you do the thing. So chase what you want to do, what needs to be done, what's the need in the market. And if being an entrepreneur is the way you do that, the most effective way you do that, then chase that. When I first heard the quote, "Privilege is invisible to those who have it," I was in a university class. And I had noticed that of all the guest speakers we had had in that entire course, there was only one woman. And my friend beside me, who was a person of color, said, "Yeah, but we've had no people of color." And I said, "Whoa, yeah, I didn't even notice that." And so that's when the quote hit me, was, of course, it was my privilege of being white that I didn't even realize we didn't have people of color. I only realized what I didn't have, which was being a woman, and we didn't have any of those. In terms of fostering inclusion and building up diversity, whether it's in business or in the Oscar slate of movies or anything like that, the way I've conceptualized it is that it usually has to come top down and bottom up for there to be a happy middle. And what that means is, let's say we're talking about hiring practices. Bottom up is the systemic issues that create the lack of a diverse talent pool in the first place. And that's things like access to education. That's things like how people are educated about race and sexuality and every other part of your social location. And that's what sort of feeds up social economic status that is often tied with race issues. So there's the systemic issues that create the talent pool in the first place. But the top down is let's say, the CEOs and the people actually doing the hiring, for example. At some point, you need to just say, we are mandating that we have to hire a woman and a person of color. Now, if you asked a white man, they would probably hate that because it's not equality. It's not equality, it's equity, because different people need different things to get at the same point. That's equity. Equity is saying, okay, you're gonna get a $5,000 scholarship so that you can both just enter the door. And now that's equity, putting you in the same place. So for the top-down approach, we have the CEO saying, I'm going to mandate that we need to hire women. And why that top-down is important is because these women need to see themselves reflected in those organizations for them to even think that's a possibility.